Hello! Today we're going to be talking about the first month of 2024. What I read in January. It was a decently good month. However, the first book that I read was a DNF, but that's on purpose because we don't have time for boring books this year, right? I read 7 total books. I am counting the DNFs because I got like 150 pages plus into those books before I DNF'd them. And the rest were really great, actually. It's very, very high ratings, which is really nice. I'm also kind of going to go over what I want to read in February, although it is a very loose TBR of what I want to read. It's all over the place. The first book that I tried to read was Pineapple Street by Jenny Jackson. I just wasn't invested. It wasn't grabbing my attention. It's about this family who is very well off and they live in Brooklyn, New York. It kind of follows each member of the family, or each of the children, I think it was, and a woman who married into the family, and kind of their perspectives on life and life with the family and everything like that. And I just wasn't invested enough in the characters' lives. It was very, very character driven. Pretty much nothing happened except they lived their daily lives and like went to the park with their kids and stuff. If you weren't invested in the characters' lives or interested in any of the characters, then there was no hope. So I DNF'd it because it was just boring and I wasn't going to push through it. Next, I attempted The Wager by David Grann. This one was also boring. This is about a real event. It's called The Wager, a tale of shipwreck, mutiny, and murder. A ship called The Wager, I believe. It just goes to show how well I retained what I was listening to. The boat wrecked, and then there were 2 different teams of survivors of this wreckage that they were on an island for a bit, I think, and then eventually they got off the island and 2 of them went 2 different ways off the island. And then one of them got back to where they came from sooner and like told a story about it. And then the other guys came and they were like, nuh-uh, that's not what happened. So, but it was so boring, I could not get through it. I thought if I listened to it, it would be like listening to a podcast, but it just was not. I had no interest whatsoever. We tried. Next, I read Holly by Stephen King. This was first in the Goodreads choice for horror, I believe. I think it was horror, which is kind of interesting because I don't really get horror vibes from it. I get more like mystery, thrillery vibes. Mystery, like crime vibes almost. Not really horror. But it follows our main character, Holly, which I'm pretty sure there are Stephen King books before this that have this character, Holly, in them. She is a private investigator. She's looking into the disappearance of a girl. And it kind of spirals and she starts to figure out that there are a bunch of different cases from the area where people went missing and haven't been found. It's set during COVID, which was kind of jarring to me. I don't think I'm ready for my fiction books to have COVID references in them. It still is just too soon. It's too soon. However, it was very good. It's super interesting because you're following these different perspectives and different timelines. You know who the killers are, like from the beginning of the book. You know who they are and you're following their timelines from the beginning when they started. And then you are following the present day timeline, which Holly is in, and her trying to find out who it is. And these timelines kind of catch up to each other. It was a really cool way to write the story. Even though the killers are very unlikable, I still kind of liked them. They're just this cute little couple who should be very likable and very innocent, but they just aren't. which was also very interesting and conflicty in my head. I rated this 3.5 stars. The next book I read was Britney Spears, The Woman in Me. This was spectacular, phenomenal. I tabbed this like crazy. I wrote in it like crazy. It was so good. And I don't even know that much about Britney Spears going into this book. Never been like a huge fan of hers, except for when she was in the media, like really going through it. I hadn't really known of Britney Spears. I hadn't really listened to her music, but it was really fun because this book references all of those events and all of the big award shows and big performances that really framed her career. And it was really fun to look those up on YouTube and like watch them happen while I was also reading her version of the story. It was so good, like really, really good. And this is definitely kicking off my memoir era. I cannot wait. I already have 2 other memoirs that I am ready to read and really wanting to get to. So that's exciting. Next we read Red, White, and Royal Blue. This I gave 3.5 stars as well. Oh, I didn't rate the Britney memoir just because I don't rate people's life stories. I think that's mean. So I didn't rate it, but it was phenomenal. Red, White, and Royal Blue. Yes, I gave it 3.5 stars. It was so cute. This follows the son of the President of the United States, Alex, and a British prince, a royal prince. His name is Henry. So it starts out as enemies to lovers, but it's not really enemies to lovers because they both secretly are obsessed with each other. It was just so cute. It was really, really cute. The reason I gave it 3.5 stars is it's very text heavy. It's very information heavy, which I don't love in a romance. So I found myself skipping over the large chunks of just like informative text and reading the dialogue. It was still really, really good, even though I was doing that. So yeah, 3.5 stars, would recommend. Then I read Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. Of course, I tabbed the crap out of this one too. So good, so good. I liked this better than Legends and Lattes, if you can believe it or not. It was better. This follows Viv, the same main character from Legends and Lattes, but it's part of her story from before Legends and Lattes happened, so it's a prequel. Viv is a bounty hunter, and one day she gets injured while trying to get a bounty. So her team, or her team leader, I guess, her captain, I don't know, drops her off at this little tiny small town and is like, you rest, you recover, and when we're on our way back after we get this bounty, we'll come back and we'll get you. It's Viv in this little town trying to heal and recover, and the people she meets along the way, and she's helping to rebuild this bookshop and get this bookshop back on its feet. And it's just so cute. It's so cozy. It's so wholesome. It's just like, it's a hug in a book. It's literally, it was so good. The last book I read this month is A Monster Calls. This is by Patrick Ness, but Siobhan Dowd. It is her ideas. It is her story. And unfortunately, she passed away from cancer before this could be turned into fruition. And Patrick Ness finished it for her. Oh, it's illustrated by Jim Kay. And the illustrations in this are really, really cool. Let me just show you. Like this. Yeah, the illustrations, they're just so good. This is a YA story pretty much about grief. Our main character, Connor, His mom has cancer. He starts having these nightmares, and then eventually a monster comes and visits him at night. The monster says, I'm gonna tell you 3 stories and then you have to tell me a story, and it has to be the truth. And Connor's like, I don't know what you're talking about, whatever. Then he wakes up the next morning and he's like, oh, it must have been a dream, but there are leaves all over the ground. Sometimes when this monster visits him, he does some kind of violent things. What's truly happening, from how I interpreted it, is this monster is like a manifestation of the grief he is feeling about his mom. I thought it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. The illustrations help a lot. I like the idea of it being YA as well. Even though it does talk about some very heavy subjects, it is nice that a young person who might be struggling with some of the same things or who is losing a loved one can read something like this and learn about how you need to talk about these things. You need to talk about this grief, or it's going to manifest into something that is hard to get rid of and will eventually swallow you whole. I cried. It was heart-wrenching. It was thought-provoking. It was really good to be a YA novel about loss and sadness. Very good. That is what I read in January. Now for my plans for February. I am excited about February. I definitely want to read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Everybody is freaking out about this book, even now, to this day. This is a YA romantasy book. All I know is that people are loving it. It's slow burn, and apparently the main character's banter is really, really good, which I love. Yeah, that's really the extent of what I know about it. A lot of people say it's kind of like The Hunger Games. So we'll see. I also want to read Days at the Murasaki Bookshop. This just looks so cozy and so cute. I love the cover. The cover is beautiful. I currently have these 2 books out from the library, so I should probably get to these as well. Misery by Stephen King and The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery. I've heard really good things about both of these. What else? Oh, I was supposed to read this month, but it didn't come in the mail in time, so we'll see if I get to it. I do still really want to read it. This was a book club book for, I believe it's Crow Club. I'll put somewhere in the description the Fable link for it, but this was the book club pick, and I was supposed to read it, but I couldn't, and so I want to. What else do we have, Apollo? I think that's it, really. Those are my most anticipated reads that I want to get to this month. So we'll see. Yeah, see you next month. Bye.